Yo, so given the topic started by Frozen Particle on Twitter in regards to whether or not Goku is considered a complex character, I feel like it's my duty to inform y'all that you are all using different definitions of complex character, and that all of the intelligent fans agree on Goku's characterization for the most part. You just disagree on how you use the word complex. So let Reda, a well-researched author with a capital A who has edited for many people, and I make it easier for you.
If we are going to be talking about literature and literary ways to describe fictional characters, then we all need to agree to use the literary lexicon.
You read it, you learn it, you love it!
We can't be making up our own definition of words because we like the way our definitions sound better, and we also can't be using Google or the encyclopedia because those definitions are usually too broad and don't give a proper understanding to the full usage of the terms used by literary analysts.
Side note, if you refuse to believe in the proper definitions and continue to use your own or Google/encyclopedia definitions, then you can't be upset when people misunderstand what you're saying. That'd be like if I decided to call a pen a pencil because they are technically both writing utensils and technically perform the same tasks, and then got upset when others were confused as to why my version of a pencil didn't erase. We have to use the lexicon. What is a lexicon anyways? Is it a website or something?
Well, there is a website, but that's not where the term lexicon originates. Merriam-Webster defines lexicon as the vocabulary of a language, an individual speaker or group of speakers, or a subject. A literary lexicon is the vocabulary of the group of speakers, i.e., literary analysts and writers that talk about literature of all types. Like how magic system in the fantasy sci-fi genre's lexicon refers to a system of powers that are not of our world that fantasy and sci-fi writers like to use. So, according to the lexicon, Babidi's magic, ki, and capsules are all part of their own magic systems, while outside of literary analysis, one might only call Babidi's magic, since the series itself refers to it as such. Get it?
I love magic.
Not following the literary lexicon runs into the problem of nobody agreeing on a definition of the word complex when referring to a character. I don't even believe complex and simple are in the lexicon, are they, Reda?
Not that I can find. I don't know what English and literature courses are teaching these days. I've been out of high school for over 10 years and out of college for 3 or 5 or something like that. But here's something I learned in my writing research about characters. And oh yeah, we think about this when creating characters. Well, some of us do. There are 4 ways to describe a character. Actually, there's quite a few more than that, but let's not get too complicated. I'm focusing on the simple complex issue here. Dynamic, a character who changes over time. Static, a character who does not change or changes very slightly. Round, a character who has a complex personality who is often portrayed as conflicted or contradictory. Flat, the opposite of a round character, one-dimensional, and has one kind of personality trait or characteristic.
There's the terminology we should be using for this conversation. Let's set some ground rules of how to use these terms. Practically any combination of them can be used, though some of them contradict, so let's keep it simple and say there are 2 pairs and one would pick one from each pair. Typically, a character will be dynamic or static, and round or flat. So a character could be dynamic and round, static and flat, dynamic and flat, or static and round. Most heroes, especially in modern media, are dynamic and round, so that's what we'll typically attribute to being more complex and
Deeper.
as it resonates with us as the typical hero, but again, that's the wrong terminology, especially since there are plenty of characters that could be classified as complex who have a different combination. Here comes Reda with an example of your typical dynamic and round character.
Most protagonists are dynamic and round because of an internal conflict. Granted, you don't have to be a protagonist to be this, as we have great depth put into side characters a lot of times too. Even if he's not the protagonist, Vegeta is a great example of a dynamic character in Dragon Ball. He has internal monologues, he struggles with himself, he changes over time. We like these types of characters because we love the internal conflict. You don't need a redemption arc like Vegeta to be dynamic either. Gohan is pretty dynamic as well because he grows and shifts and struggles to balance the scholar side of his personality with the fighter side. He struggles. If you watch Super, heck, he's still struggling to find that balance. He's changing over time. And sometimes it even appears that he's bouncing back and forth. Very realistic, that. But this is not the only combination possible. Static characters can still be round. I call Goku static because he doesn't have a major conflict that he overcomes. He struggles against external conflicts more than anything internal, and this is what leads to the belief that he has no depth. He has some flaws, but he never really struggles against them or overcomes them. He just accepts them as what he's like and moves on. Though he does change, he does mature, he's definitely different from the beginning of Dragon Ball to the end of Z, but it's minor and more just a subtle maturity growth without really learning to change any massive flaws within himself or to discover who he is. He knows who he is. He's Goku.
Personally, I believe that self-confidence and lack of an internal conflict outside of situational struggles is what makes him a hero to so many people. He's who everyone strives to be. A genuinely good person who is confident enough in himself, who he is and where he's going, that he doesn't worry about the past, future, or what people think of him. Like Reda said, he knows who he is, unlike Midoriya from Boku no Hero Academia, who has had a major shift in his life early on that causes an internal struggle of what his definition of a hero is and who Deku truly is. Goku is the adult that you see who lives by the term c'est la vie, meaning such is life, a phase most people don't reach until they're old enough to have grandkids, and Deku and Gohan are the young adults/teenagers who are struggling to find their place in the world and their destiny. Hence why more people relate to Deku/Gohan more than look up to them, and vice versa for Goku. None of this to say that Goku isn't realistic. I've met many people who are static and like Goku and that they are very confident in themselves and don't change over time. It's just harder to find in young adults and thus harder for your typical shonen anime viewer to relate to. Keep in mind that relatability is not the only way to make a well-written character. Goku is a hero like Superman, though Goku's ideal is easier to reach and more in touch with reality. It doesn't make him any less of a well-written character. Goku is, in my opinion, the definition of a well-written, static, and round character.
It's what makes Goku special. Like I said earlier, most protagonists, especially in shonen anime, are dynamic and round because it's relatable, but other types of people still exist. There is nothing wrong with writing a character who does not have an internal struggle throughout the story. And besides, Vegeta takes care of that job for us just fine. Static characters have their place, and Goku fills his role as a static and round character exactly how he needs to. Well, I think we've talked about the differences between dynamic and static enough. Let's talk about round versus flat. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say every major character in Dragon Ball is well-rounded. Complex to me has meant complex personality, i.e. not a one-note gimmick. These characters have contradictory moments. You expect Goku to love every fight ever, yet he's scared against Raditz because he changes with the situation, and when his son is in real danger, suddenly he's worried instead of excited. Consistently inconsistent. Well-rounded. Complex.
Quick side note reminder that the very definition of a rounded character is a character who has a complex personality who is often portrayed as conflicted or contradictory.
You want an example of a flat character? Half the random extras in the tournaments. Like Ranfan. One-note gimmicks. Hercule's crew that's with him in the Cell games. Most of the Red Ribbon Army. I'd even argue those Dr. Slump characters that make an appearance, but alas, I haven't read Dr. Slump, so who's to say? Gag manga does feel like it'd be more apt to have flat static characters than dynamic round ones, though.
Back to Goku. I think we've made our case for Goku being described as static and round, so can we please stop acting like he's simpler or not as deep as other characters and start using the proper lexicon of literary analysis when we are trying to pin down a character? This insistent need to stick to complex versus simple is what I believe causes such a fuss about how do we describe Goku, because we are used to seeing only dynamic round versus static flat, so when a character is static round, we freak out.
I think that's what makes him so hard to pin down. He's both simple and complex. He's static and well-rounded. I'm Reda, and I'm telling you to learn the lexicon.
And I'm Kairi, and I can't speak or read Japanese. I'd like to give a special shout out and thanks to my patrons. You guys are the reason why I'm up at 1:45 a.m. right now working on this video instead of just going to sleep.